Good evening, Hell Rats, and welcome to the Metal Mayhem ROC YouTube channel. I'm your host, Southen Cal. On tonight's show, we got a good one. We're going to be talking to David Reid Watson from the band Alchemy Fire. These guys are pretty sick, I got to say. That's some new trending, let's say, good thrash, new world metal, let's say, and melodic, all that good stuff rolled right into one. These guys have a little bit of a close connection to us. They won the Metal Devastation Radio Battle of the Bands. And as you all know, we do our live show on Metal Devastation Radio on Mondays from 6 to 9 p.m. So it's great that we got a little tie-in with Zach Moonshine. So I'd like everybody to please welcome to the show, David Reid Watson.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, no problem at all. Hey, let's talk a little bit about that Metal Devastation Radio. How did that all come about?
Paul. Paul, I think Paul did that. It wasn't my doing at all.
Paul being the guitarist of your band, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Zach Moonshine. Those guys are some good people over there. You guys received over 10,000 votes in winning this, and I believe it was for the song Warrior. Is that correct?
Was it for Warrior? Or was it for it might have been, I'm not sure. It might have been for Warrior or Alchemy. I'm not
Alchemy
sure.
Fire, maybe possibly. But either way, you guys won that. That's pretty cool. You mentioned Paul. He is the, I guess, founder of the band, founded back in 2018.
Yes.
Catch us up a little bit for anybody who might not have heard of Alchemy Fire. Bring us up to date and what's going on.
Well, we're yeah, like you mentioned, 2018, that's when Paul and our drummer Tom Schofield, who played with Soil, he's a founder of Soil, and also of the band Oppressor, which is a death metal band.
Yeah.
And Paul, anyway, roundabout knew a guy in England, and the guy owned a studio down near Fort Myers area. Fort Myers, yeah. Fort Myers area off of the island, remember the island that got destroyed?
Yes.
Yeah. The studio was on that island. And anyway, Paul wanted to do this material. This guy that owned the studio got him he goes, I got friends, I can get you a studio drummer. So he got Tom. And Tom was sitting there, rearranging the songs with Paul. And he's like, hey man, I'd be into joining this band. You don't have to pay me. So it was kind of cool. So then they got a studio bass player to go in there and just lay down some tracks. So Paul ended up going back to England with this material, and then the hunt was on to find a singer. And the way that Tom had written the drums was very much like Oppressor or Soil, very, double bass stuff. He wasn't, he's told me many times, he goes, wasn't expecting you.
Right. Well, I tell you, there's a great scene going on over there. It's like there's a resurgence of sorts going on. Back in the late 80s and 90s, there was a lot happening with Morrisound and the Tampa scene, St. Petersburg. Yep. And it seems like it's all happening again. And a lot of people I've been talking to, a lot of stuff is coming out of that. And here you mentioned Fort Myers, and what's going on over there. So that's pretty
good.
Interesting.
I can't wait to dig into it, because I'll be in Florida from February 27th until like April 10th, I believe.
Prime time down in Florida right there.
Yeah, I'm doing the Monsters of Rock cruise to the Edge and On the Blue. So
awesome.
And I think On the Blue's out of Tampa. So
that's very cool. Very cool. I like that. Well, let's get into this self-titled album. It came out about 9 months ago, Alchemy Fire. 9 great songs on there. I really liked the vocals on here is what I think really captured me. To me, when I listen to a band, that's like one of the first things. I gotta like the guy singing. He's the one up front, and not to mention the music is all great. All these songs are really great, and it's your vocals that what a range you have, and I guess it lends itself. You said Paul is you guys are listed as based out of the UK and the US, so I'm going to take assumption that it's Paul being in the UK, you guys being over here in the States, that
Yes.
gives you guys that UK US based
Yes.
stigma there.
Yeah.
So
It's not just, I mean, we've got, now there are 6 members in the band because we've kind of, reestablished everything. Because Paul comes from the new wave of British heavy metal, the Nottingham, Manchester kind of sound, like the Judas Priest, kind of thing. So, so we've got Neil Taylor playing keyboards. He's over there as well.
Is that the latest member to join the band? Was your
No,
keyboardist?
the latest member is Wayne Dorman,
The guitarist, another guitarist.
another guitarist, and he's from the band Onslaught,
Okay.
which is a big metal band in the UK.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool. Let's get into this album. You start right out with Alchemy Fire. There's a little intro on there. I want to talk about the song Warrior. That was the one that really kind of stuck out to me. Just driving tracks on this stuff, the drumming, the guitaring, everything about it. Expand a little bit on that song for us if you can.
Well, I wrote the lyrics for it. And let me tell your listeners here, the setting was, I felt like Robert Plant at times, because I was doing these, we were at a guy's studio, his name's Misha Nikolic, and he has a studio out near Nottingham, and it's, a big brick, stone building. He's got goats and sheep and horses,
like an estate.
Chickens. Yeah, and it's I forget the name of where Zeppelin recorded, but it kind of looks like that. That big kind of scary looking building, and just it set the atmosphere, So when I went in to lay down all these vocals, everything just came naturally, But the Warrior, I'm very much a warrior for a lot of different causes in my life. I don't like social injustice. I don't, I think that everybody's equal and whatnot. So I wrote this song about that.
Would that have anything to do with Native Son, the song Native Son?
Same thing. I'm a big advocate for Native Americans, and actually, my good friend I used to live on Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
All right.
And his name is Michael Blanton, and Michael and I, when I was going to college there years ago, he turned me on to Fireball, and not the drink. Fireball is it's a mesh ball with kerosene rags in it, and they play soccer with it. Lit on fire, and it's the Wampanoag tribe on Cape Cod. So I played it. I got hit in the face. I had like a mesh mark on my face for a couple of weeks. But anyway, I got heavily into the culture, whatnot. So when I in the chorus of that, I'll say, from to Wampanoags. That's basically who the Wampanoags are.
Right.
I wanted to do like an A to Z, but I had to fit the Wampanoags in there, and I was like, okay, all right, we're gonna have to go A to W.
A to W, that's it. Yeah, we're very familiar in Western New York. We had the Iroquois Nation there, the 5 tribes, the Seneca and the Mohawk and all that. So very familiar with the Indians and things like that here, and their plight, and just the unfair treatment of a lot of that. But I don't want to get into the politic end of all that to start getting people all ruffling their feathers and whatnot. So like we said, this album came out about 9 months ago. Anything new coming down the pipeline? Are you guys working on any new material?
Oh yeah. Since Wayne lives up in the Nottingham area, same with Paul, they are they're getting together all the time. And this goes along with the concept that Paul wanted. He wanted a 2-guitar band, kind of like Priest, only we're adding in keyboards and make it more proggy, I guess you would say. And I was actually talking to the keyboard player today. He called me up, and he's got that really thick accent like Ozzy, and which I can't replicate at all. He's just like, Dave. So, how about we incorporate some acoustic guitar in it too, and maybe slower songs. And our first album, the debut album for us, was I don't want to say thrown together, but it was kind of like a getting to know us kind of guy, because we didn't know each other, so now now that we've got six core, we have these six members now, Felipe Kopke, who's a brilliant six-string bass player. So we have this solid foundation. This next album coming out is going to be.
When you guys recorded this first album, were you all in the studio together?
No, it was Paul and Tom, and then I flew to England. I lived at Paul's house for half a year in 2019. So that's how, Paul was pretty, he wasn't adamant about it, but he suggested it. He actually, what I respect about the guy is he actually flew to Las Vegas to meet me, just hang out with me for a couple days and see if I was the guy, and we clicked. And when he went back to England, he sent me an invite. He goes, come on over to England. You got a place to stay. It was absolutely wonderful. So Paul has always been with one of the members doing something, but the rest of us have not. I mean, I know Tom. I've gone down to Florida and hung out with him and stuff like that. But Felipe, I've never met. Felipe is going to be at NAMM this year.
Okay.
And I'm only 5 hours away, and it would be sacrilege for me not to go there to introduce myself.
Sure. Isn't that the modern technology now? It used to be the old days where you all had to be in a studio together. Yeah. And now you can be in 20 different points of the earth and still throw an album together. I love that sort of stuff. It's great.
Yep. But we did it a little bit. I've done a lot of music with people where I just did some with Daryl Treese Birch, who's the keyboard player for 10, who's an English band. And I sent him, he sent me tracks, and I laid down the vocals I use a Logic Pro, and I laid down the vocals and sent it to him. We did everything completely different. Yes, we've never met each other, but like I said, Paul is the hub. I actually went into a studio to record the vocals. Paul and Tom were in the studio to record their parts. The bass player came to the studio to record his. So like I said, Paul's been there throughout every step and kind of orchestrating this whole thing.
Oh, you put together a great album. Tell us a little bit more about this new album that you're working on. Does it have a working title, any kind of release date, or is it just all still in the works?
Right now, it's in the works. Wayne and Paul have been getting together frequently because they only live, 20 miles away from each other or something like that. And so they get, when Wayne's, because Onslaught is such a big touring band, he's out there doing this. So in between tours, he'll get together with Paul. They'll write material. They haven't presented anything to us yet. I'm excited because if you've heard Wayne, he's brilliant, and he's such a great guy too. I mean, it's just an amazing human being. And so I think Paul has this element of surprise that he loves. He doesn't want to present anything until, he doesn't go, hey guys, what do you think of this idea? It's more like, oh, Mike, you're going to be blown away.
Right. Well, and are you usually, when he says something like that, does he deliver?
He definitely delivers. There was actually no rearranging on my part as far as what he did and what he and Tom did in the studio. I sat at his house in his backyard. I just penned lyrics, and it just flowed perfectly. Choruses, everything.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, being that you guys are kind of scattered all over, are there any plans for you guys? I mean, did you do any shows for the self-titled album when it came out?
We did not.
Have you done any shows as a band live?
No, not at all. But we have we have our fingers in the pie right now because there's a lot of festivals we want to do over in Europe. I mean, I've done a lot of these festivals and whatnot. Wayne's done them, Tom's done them. Felipe hasn't, and neither has Paul. So we're definitely going in that direction. Maybe Vakken and download and things like that.
You know, we say here in America, like, God, I wish we could get some of these festivals with these bills that they have over in Europe. And finally, I think we're, you know, you got the Milwaukee Metal Fest and things like that that are
Huge.
popping up. And there's all sorts of these festivals and bands like Southen Cal that rarely ever tour. You know, you're finally getting a chance to see them. They're usually playing festivals in Europe, so you finally get a chance to see them here. So, yeah, the festivals, you know, a lot of these bands that I've been talking to, there's not so much because of trucking and staffing issues to get a tour put together. You see a lot of bands have been canceling tours. So a lot of people are opting out to go and play these festivals, you know, fly us in, we'll play and fly us back home, you know, and we're back out of there. So
that's a new world. I mean, you know, I remember the old days of sitting in a tour bus and going from town to town in the US and Canada. And we can't do that anymore. It's the gas, the buses themselves have, you know, cost too much money.
It's amazing what that point of touring has gotten to. And you know, if you don't have the connections to get buses, like you said, and trucking, rigging, it's from top to bottom. And after COVID, it's just it's a shame, but it seems like things are turning back around again and getting to that point where, you know, bands can get on the road. So that would be awesome.
I had a bug was put in my ear a number of years ago, maybe like 2015 or 16. I forget when it was, but my band at the time here in Vegas, you know, we opened up for Accept, right? And I remember talking to Wolf, and you know, they're all in ears. You have two MacBook Pro laptops, and they have this other thing that they can sense the room and it creates the same exact sound. This is back 2015. I talked to Wolf and he's like, he goes, yeah, I mean, we back in the old days, we used to have to take out these, you know, these huge trucks with all of our gear and everything and go to that. He goes, now I've got a suitcase, I've got my guitars, and I just go to wherever I want.
Yeah, it's exactly how it is. It's amazing. That's, you know, that's the new technology with everything going. You know, and you mentioned Accept. They had to kind of let's say delay their tour, not postpone it or cancel it, but they had to delay it a little bit due to trucking issues. And again, they got it all straightened out and rescheduled everything for a little bit later, I think in the fall.
Yeah, they got Joel Holstra playing guitar for him now too.
Yeah.
I think he's just a fill-in, right?
We have some the band Midnight Hellion is opening up for them, and we've established a nice relationship with them as far as everything's going on. But a great bunch of guys there. So
nice.
All right, well, look, we come into a little section of the show. I call it rapid fire, but that doesn't really mean that you got to just spit these answers out real fast or anything.
I'm ready.
Three little questions. Who or what inspired you to want to be a vocalist? You have, like I said, you have a great range of vocals. It complements the music very well. You talked about the melodic feel of it. Again, the keyboards that kind of come into that, it gives it that European, let's say, Hammerfall, for instance, was a band that kind of kept coming to my mind, hearing you, but totally not Hammerfall. You guys are unique on your own. Who inspired you to say, get behind the mic?
Oh, geez. Well, oh God. Well, I was singing ever since I was a little kid, but I kind of put singing aside for a while. You know, I joined the Marines. You can see my Marine Corps flag back there.
Semper Fi.
Yeah, thank you. So after the Marines, I was sitting on the porch living on Cape Cod, and my neighbor, his name was Donnie Rainwater, and he was either Edgar or Johnny's Winter's guitar tech. I forget which one. And I was just out, I was out there just, playing along, and he came up to me and handed me a cassette. He goes, I want you to listen to this. You sound like this guy. So I later I did. I listened to it. I hated it. I was like, do I sell them? No. It was Queensryche's first album. And
Oh,
I
the
haven't,
self-titled EP.
yeah. And I didn't, I was like, okay. But, so that just, anyway, the word got out on Cape Cod. I started my first band out of the Marines was a band called Philosopher. And I just, with those guys, we just did covers. I just did covers for a while, but then somebody came up to me and it was like, dude, I need a singer. And I was full on metal, like, massive range kind of stuff, and totally felt out of my league, but it kind of stuck. And that's pretty much how it started. It was kind of an accident. But again, I've always sung, and probably, my biggest influence when I was younger, really young, was like Johnny Mathis. I
Okay.
loved his voice. But it wasn't until I heard Jesus Christ Superstar, the London cast with Ian Gillan singing as Jesus.
Right.
And that when he sings Gethsemane, I've got a copy of it on my main webpage where I do a cover of it as well. He hits that blood curdling scream, and I go, I want that.
Just kind of gives you those goosebumps a little bit if you feel that
Yes.
in your soul. Hey,
Yes.
that's what you're looking for in your music. If you can find that, all the more to you right there.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned Cape Cod. Did you guys ever, while you were there, ever go and kick it around in P-Town at all?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
I made a little pilgrimage out there. I'm a big fan of Anthony Bourdain.
Oh,
And as you
yes.
know, he was out there.
Rest
He
in
lived
peace.
out there
Yeah.
for a while. He slept on top of the oven at the pizza place, which we got some pictures. And it was great out there. That big tower that's out there, and this and that. But just the ride out there, we started in Dennisport, I believe, is where we were. Ended up in Plymouth and ended up in Boston at a Red Sox game. So it was a great
All
little time
right.
out there. But Provincetown was, that was a happening little place there. I enjoyed that.
You mentioned Dennisport. The first place I lived was Dennisport. My high school friend, probably my best friend. I grew up with him. I've known him since, I don't know, since I was 7. When I got out of the Marines, I didn't know where to go. So his name's Steve Simmons. He lives down in Coral Springs, Florida, and at the time he's like, you can move in with me. His parents own the Dennisport Motel. So, and so that's what started it for me.
I tell you, I've never seen as many horseshoe crabs on a beach in my life. I was like, holy shit, look at
And it
this.
stank too, that seaweed and stuff.
Yeah, it was a great little hotel that we stayed in, but I was like, this is, and it was the time of year, obviously, that we were there that
Oh,
caused all these horseshoe crabs to be up on the beach.
oh, yeah.
Amazing, though. Great place, great time out there. When you're driving around Vegas and just kicking it around, maybe going to get some groceries or picking up a pizza or whatever, who do you have on your playlist? What are you listening to? Any new bands that you're liking out there?
There, well, because I have a cover band here in Vegas, um, I'm usually listening to those songs, and our set list varies, like I've got a show on Saturday. It's, 4 sets, 4 45-minute sets. And so, I go back to like old Stones and stuff like that. And um, as far as anything current, I'm not doing a whole lot. I mean, but there's some great bands I'm getting turned on to just doing these interviews. Like you mentioned Hammerfall, I was like, I actually went out and bought all of their CDs
Hmm.
because somebody else had said that to me. I go, okay, I gotta listen to them. I gotta listen to this music and
I
hear
had a
what it's
chance
about.
to see them open up for Flotsam. I've never heard of them before.
Yeah.
We went down to see the Flotsam and Jetsam show. And when I was driving home, I had to get on my Spotify and pull some of that up. I was like, man, these guys are good. It's again, the vocals that pulled me into that.
Right.
So you're out in Vegas. You're saying you have a cover band out there. You guys play in the casinos and are like most people. Do you lived in Vegas or you do live out in Henderson like most of the people that work and live in, let's say, Vegas itself?
I live out near Lake Las Vegas,
Okay.
which is Henderson, but heading towards Lake Mead a little bit. And
Yep.
it's a beautiful spot. The only The only downfall, our house that we have is it overlooks a strip, and they just started building these buildings, right? So eventually we're going to be staring at a gray wall,
Oh,
and
bye view, huh?
yeah, I don't appreciate that, but it's yeah, it's for people that have never been to Vegas, it's because I do a couple different things. Like my day job, I do bicycle touring. So I take people up in the mountains and take them out on mountain bikes or road bikes, and every single time they're like, I never knew this was in Vegas.
Oh, see, that's if I'm going to, I've been to Vegas a few times, and
Mhm.
the gambling thing, it's fun, but it loses its flair after a while. So I'd rather do one of those bicycle tours. So if I'm ever out there again, I'm going to look you
Yeah,
up and
yeah, definitely.
take you up on one of those for sure.
Yep. No, but
Um,
we're playing mainly bars. The casinos now, ever since COVID, the casinos have they're not really, it's like they put a cap on what they were paying people and they never went back.
that sounds like typical venues right now. They want some of your t-shirt money too, just anything to make it harder for a band to go out on the road and make a living. Now
Yeah.
that they want their t-shirt money. Come on, enough's enough.
20% sometimes.
It's just crazy to me. And I'm glad I believe it's the House of Blues stopped doing that finally, hitting up these artists. I mean, this is how they make a lot of their money. It's not like they're getting paid a lot when you have four bands on a bill and things
Right.
like that. By the time the money gets all dispersed, it's hard out there. So these guys make a lot of money selling their merch, and for clubs to step in and be like, we want to cut. I'd be like, well, give me a cut of your bar take, and I know you can negotiate things like that in your contracts and your writers and whatnot. So
Yeah, what you give it a case of water, a six pack of beer. The last major tour I did was U.S. Canada with Iced Earth and Sanctuary and my band Kill Ritual, and every venue, a woman would come up and say, "Okay, I need to help you count your merch." So, and then they'd count afterwards too, and you're just like,
yeah, right. It's just enough's enough. So,
yeah,
how is the music scene, the metal scene out in Vegas? What's going on out there?
it's growing. It is it's growing a lot. Just to give you a little insight on what's happening in Las Vegas, and since the pandemic, now that everybody works at home, I think the
Yeah.
statistic is every 8 seconds somebody moves here from California
So, I
because
live in Florida. We got the same thing. It seems like every 8 seconds somebody's moving to Florida.
yeah,
It's
and the
busier and
traffic gets
busier.
it gets worse. The traffic gets worse. I understand that they're trying to deal with the infrastructure and whatnot, but I had some clients out that were out for a bicycle ride with me a couple weeks ago, and the guy's on Zillow. I'm like, "What are you up to?" And he's like, "Well, we live in LA and we work at home, and I'm looking at houses here, and they're a third to half the price of something in LA and twice as big." I don't blame him.
I think everybody's getting out of LA. A lot of people and let's say the heavy metal business are moving to Nashville. The amount of people that have moved to Nashville, it's getting weird out in California. It's very expensive out in California. So I could see the migration and a new headquarters, let's say Nashville being one of them, St. Pete, Tampa being another one, because we're seeing a big resurgence in the metal and a lot of great new bands coming out, which is in the genre of the new wave of British heavy metal, let's say, not so much the 90s new metal, Slipknot, Korn, bands like that. They
Right.
were great and all, but I'm an 80s guy, so that's what we grew up
I'm
on.
listening.
And
I have to let the dog in because he's
oh,
scratching at the door.
go
Just
ahead,
hang
go
on.
ahead, go ahead.
What, Del Boy?
No problem. I just paused that for a quick second.
Okay.
What kind
Uh,
of dog is that?
I don't know. What are you, Del Boy? He doesn't even know. He's a little guy, but he's
And we love our animals. We just recently got a Maltipoo, little Rocco, and he's a handful, but you gotta love the dogs,
you
gotta love
do.
them.
You do. They've always got um they just love no matter what.
Exactly. And they're waiting for you to get home with the waggy tail and everything else. So
Yep.
you got to like that. There's no compromising with them.
No,
Oh,
no, no.
David, let's wrap things up here. Give us where we can contact you if we want to find out more about Alchemy Fire. What are your social outlets? That,
We're on everything. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok as well. But they can get all those links on our main website, which is alchemyfireofficial.com.
look for the alchemy symbol. I really like that, how you have the triangle with the fire. There we go, right there.
Yeah, this is the second rendition. I did the first one, but then we the first one had it had a dragon in it, but the triangle is an alchemical symbol.
Yep.
So we
I like that cover right there. That's totally matches what you guys are all about, Alchemy Fire.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, if you can, people, get out there, take a look at this album, give it a listen. Great stuff on there. If you're a fan of that UK, let's say melodic metal, I hate using the word melodic because it's really more heavy into let's say the classic metal sound, classic melodic metal, because it's harder than that. And if you're into bands like Hammerfall, these guys are it. And give them a listen if you can. We appreciate it. David Reid Watson, Alchemy Fire. We appreciate you joining us tonight and taking the time. I had a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, for Metal Mayhem ROC YouTube, I'm Southen Cal.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.